Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot's E3 stage. I'm your host Mike Mahardy here with GameSpot's Miguel Concepcion.
Hi.
And we're joined by Ash from Square Enix's Final Fantasy
Hey.
XIV team. You're here to talk about Stormblood
I am, yes.
expansion, second expansion after Heaven's Ward.
It is.
Yeah, so tell us, like, for people who are just coming in fresh, what are we expecting with this expansion?
Well, first of all, with Final Fantasy XIV Online, I don't know if everybody that watches kind of understands. It's just an MMO, subscription-based MMO. It is a celebration of everything Final Fantasy, the music, the themes, the characters, everything. It's incredible. It's got this main story quest that kind of rivals all the other mainline Final Fantasies as well.
Sure.
So Stormblood, it's our second expansion. It's continuing that story. We're going to liberate Alamigo and check out the Far East and go into Doma. But it's coming out June 20th, and we're really excited.
Cool. Yeah, as you just mentioned, like you said a few story beats that I don't recognize because I am not traditionally I have not played much of the game, but Stormblood, I was telling you right before we started, I'm really interested in Stormblood because I've heard it's actually can bring people in, right? There's a few different options for people just getting in, but how do you think I'll be overwhelmed by the story stuff when I'm jumping in?
So I would say I wouldn't skip the story stuff. So basically, just to kind of go back to what we're talking about, with Stormblood releasing, we're also releasing the option for you to purchase the ability to skip the story of A Realm Reborn, and also A Realm Reborn plus Heaven's Ward, and also level up one of your jobs to level 60. I really wouldn't suggest doing that because the main story quest here is kind of what sets Final Fantasy XIV Online apart from some of the other MMOs out there. But even if you did, you have the ability to catch up on all of the stories in the game. You just go to, it's called the Unending Journey. You click on it, and it has every single main story cinematic that you can actually watch. So,
Sure.
Yeah. But it's just such a good story. I don't know why you want to.
Yeah.
In keeping with the Far East setting of this expansion, this is an opportunity to introduce the Samurai class along with the Red Mage. If you talk more about those.
Yeah, so the Red Mage and Samurai are kind of fan favorite jobs from the Final Fantasy the whole fandom, and it's the first time they're going to be in the game. Melee class for Samurai, obviously, and I think you're seeing some gameplay of it right now.
Yeah.
The Red Mage is kind of a hybrid, both of melee and range DPS. I'm particularly probably going to be trying out the Red Mage. Well, I actually have a level 60 Black Mage, so yeah, I'm more of a range guy myself. But I mean, people have been clamoring for these new jobs, so we're really excited about that too.
Cool, yeah, and then there's like the typical, new dungeons, new raid.
Of course, yeah. So you have all the content that kind of typically comes with this, but one of the cool things is one of the new raids is actually it's called Return to Ivelisse. It's kind of based on, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, one of our past Final Fantasy titles. Actually, one of the designers that worked on that is actually working on the scenario for this as well.
Cool.
That'd be the original director of Final Fantasy XII.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was going to say the dungeons, obviously with every expansion we have a lot more dungeons that are added at that time, but also as the game is released, we have a patch cadence that's pretty consistent. Like every 2 to 3 months you usually get additional dungeon content. But there's a lot of cool new zones, obviously, you're going through. But the big thing is, I would say, we've been clamoring and hinting at going to Alamigo and liberating Alamigo for the last 2 years. So that's going to be a really big thing for us here. It's I think people are waiting to finally see where that goes in the story. And if you have caught up on the story, you've noticed there's been a couple characters, Gosetsu and Yugiri, that have come from the Far East, and all that's going to play in together. So
Yeah, I'm curious for people, veterans of the game and who have been playing, since, like Realm Reborn launched and, Heaven's Ward. But I'm curious how, in terms of quality of life and just minor changes or even overarching changes, how does Stormblood, change the game itself?
Yeah, so Yoshida-san's development team have actually implemented a new, kind of like a battle system revamp where they've streamlined a lot of the job actions and spells that were consistent in the previous game and expansion. Beyond that, there's also kind of job role actions that are shared amongst tank, DPS, and heals that streamlines that as well. And we have, I don't know if you see on the screen here on the top, where there's a job gauge now that kind of gives you a better visual indication of what your specific job actions are for that job. So for the Samurai, you see that red sword up there with 100 and the 3 icons there. Kind of gives you a better visual indication when you can use certain job actions and spells.
Okay.
And the one thing I'll say too is if you, this game is available obviously on PlayStation 4 and PC and Mac. With the controller, the streamlining of the job actions is actually going to make that a much better experience as well too. For people. But I mean, I think that the battle system revamp is really going to give the veterans of the game something to come back and really sink their teeth into and really like the quality of life improvements that come with it. So yeah.
I hear the fans are also very excited about the overhaul with the inventory system.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can talk more about that.
I mean, other than basically we're giving everybody a bit more inventory. Yeah.
Well,
Access to inventory. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's always something everybody really always clamoring for as well. But I mean, with this game too, obviously I talked about the main story quest, but this is an MMO, right? So we have housing, customization options, you know, getting your own airship, everything of that nature that comes with an MMO. Hundreds and hundreds of side quests as well beyond just the main story quest, and all the new crafting recipes and spells that that'll come with the game as well. So
I imagine it must be tough for the development team to balance, like MMOs can be intimidating to people not like into them, but I mean, of course, Final Fantasy is going to attract fans of that series who might not normally play MMOs, right? But I imagine on the development side, it must be difficult to balance the accessibility without like sacrificing the depth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of the development team for that point, but what I would say personally, as an anecdote to me, is I've been playing MMOs since back in the days, Ultima Online or World of Warcraft all the time. What I found interesting about Final Fantasy XIV is that it really melds all of the great quality of life improvements and systems that you've seen throughout the years progressing with MMOs with a Japanese RPG and a mainline story, Final Fantasy, all in one. Yeah. And to me, that kind of makes it really unique because you don't really see that in the marketplace much. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, Miguel, you've gotten the chance to see a little bit of the game, in past like demos and whatnot, right? Like from your perspective, what is it that sets Stormblood apart from other expansions, or just 14 apart from other MMOs in general?
Well, the one thing that I've really very much enjoyed in Final Fantasy XIV in general is the balance of content for playing with friends. Plus, there's a really, really substantial component where I could just like play by myself.
I did that for the most part when I was starting actually to play myself.
Play myself?
Yeah, for the most part. But then I started getting in my free company and started getting other people to play with me. But if you are someone that really just enjoys a single-player Final Fantasy mainline game, like I said, not only is the main story quest there, but it feels just like that epic journey, kind of as you as a Warrior of Light. So that's always cool and that's there. But as you want to participate in things like dungeons and raids, and also for people that are kind of new coming into the game, veterans have the ability to queue with their daily. Essentially they have a daily roulette, which they can basically randomly go into a dungeon, and that they'll level essentially down to that player's level, so that you're constantly getting veteran players also interacting with new players. Okay. So and that's all there for you as an option for you to queue. A lot of quality of life with that as well, right? For Dungeon Finder, Raid Finder. But if you didn't want to, you could just mainline through the main story quest if you wanted. But
yeah, you guys aren't shy about having a lot of exposition and cutscenes.
It's a Final Fantasy game, right? Come on.
Right.
But it's got all the incredible things such as the Final Fantasy music, art style, everything you can think. And there's a lot of references to the franchise as a celebration. So you got Sid in there. You've got a lot of other familiar things, primals that are very familiar to Final Fantasy as well.
Side note: what are these chests doing?
So this is actually a boss encounter in one of the new dungeons, and this is part of the dynamic of defeating this boss.
Okay, interesting.
There's a lot of cool mechanics that you see.
Sure, yeah.
Boss battles as well. We're actually showcasing one of the primals here at E3.
Okay.
And if you can beat it, you get a chance to win a shirt. It's cool. But yeah.
Awesome. And so I mean, Stormblood, you said it's early access very soon.
2 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah,
actually. So if you pre-ordered, and actually you can still pre-order all the way through the weekend and just join while early access is coming on.
Okay,
going on
cool.
As well.
And then, Miguel, did you have any other?
You were talking a little bit about the accessibility for newcomers and the different options that they have. If you can talk more about that.
Well, there's a Hall of Novice in the game that kind of helps bridge your ability to learn about your job. There's this thing called the Guild Hest, which actually is a training group of quests, essentially, of how to work in a group. But everything else, like all of the new player experience in terms of the questing, everything, it eases you into the gameplay pretty well. I mean, they've done a great job of doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you detail actually? You might have touched on it earlier. The monetization to actually up your character.
Oh, it's not. It's just we have a store called Mog Station where you can actually buy customizable options for your character. In that and mounts and other things, and we're actually launching 3 new items. One of them being the ability to skip the story for A Realm Reborn.
Sure.
Another one is to skip all the way up through Heavensward, so you're ready for Stormblood. And one that also allows you to take a job up to level 60 and just be ready for Stormblood out the get-go. I really, while that option is there, I really do suggest people playing through the main story quest, because unlike some other MMOs, like our main story quest beyond just the game itself, through all the patches, continues all the way through, and with each patch you're getting additional story content, and you're going to miss quite a bit of context if you just jump straight into Stormblood without understanding what's going on, I guess, that way.
The option's there though, right? Like,
it is.
Right.
We do want to make that option available for new players if they want to maybe jump with their buddy who's been raiding for a long time, and, and maybe just, and like I said, they can go in the game, and in any inn you can catch up with the story and go through cinematics. So
sure. Yeah. I don't know. Miguel, you have any other questions about the expansion?
Not to jump back like a dozen topics, but as someone who really loved Final Fantasy XII, if you can talk more about the Return to Ivelisse content. I mean, it's more than just a raid, correct?
Yeah, I actually can't go into anything really more about that. I don't really know much myself. We are keeping it kind of close to the heart on there, but they are. What I've heard and what I've been told from everybody is that if you are a fan of Ivelisse and that world, you are going to enjoy this raid content.
And is that available?
Not at release. It'll be patched in, obviously. So.
Great.
Yeah. How often? Square Enix. I mean, it's been like keeping up to date between expansions on patching and updating whatnot.
So we have an incredible cadence. And like I said, we're constantly adding new content. So every 2 to 3 months, and that dates back for the last 3 years. You're getting 2 new dungeons, 2 new dungeons. You're getting quality of life improvements in some of them, depending on what the patches are. But you're definitely getting a stream of content all throughout the year. And like I said, that main story quest also continues throughout that entire patch content. And I think, if I remember this correctly, the patch content between A Realm Reborn and Heaven's Ward was almost as much main story content as Heaven's Ward itself, and the same thing as Heaven's Ward's patches came. They're very meaty content updates that come through them. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, anyway, June 20th.
Yes.
People can play Stormblood or early access 2 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
cool.
We're all not going to get very much sleep tonight.
Nope.
So.
Yeah. Perfect timing to end E3. But Ash, thank you so much for stopping by.
for having me.
Stopping our
Thank
stage.
you very much.
Miguel, thank you as well. We are going to throw it back to the downstairs stage. We have Xavier Woods and Samoa Joe are going to be playing games on our downstairs stage.
Xavier Woods is a Final Fantasy XIV fan.
He plays a ton of games, so he'll be down there. If you're a WWE fan, you can check that out. In about 15-ish, 20 minutes, we'll go down to there. But, of course, in the meantime, you can keep up to date with all of our stage demos, all of our developer interviews throughout E3, and we will see you around.